Hi guys and welcome back to SwitchUp. Now much like many of you, Blue Fire is the game I've been waiting for. I've played a week on the PC version, but with the Switch codes now in, I can get the footage I need for this review. If you enjoy the content, then do consider sticking around. Published by Graffiti Games and developed by Roby Studios, at first glance I instantly thought 3D Hollow Knight. Is that what this game is? And does it even come close to living up to that comparison? Well, let's find out. You begin your tale almost as a test subject escaping from your chamber and are comprised of equal parts light and dark. The adventure takes place in the world of Penumbra, which has seen this shadow-like corruption taking over the land. And as you'd expect, there's far more to the narrative than that, but to give away too much would be a mistake. There are a number of main quest lines to follow, but also a good number of side quests, which generally are smaller tales and entirely optional, with them very often being quite tricky to find. In a way, just what I expected. As far as the gameplay and controls go, this is where it veers away from Hollow Knight in a few key areas and feels more like an amalgamation of Zelda, Hollow Knight and a Souls game, and your experience is divided into an overworld area and a number of slickly designed platform segments which are known as the Void, and these provide their own challenges and equally their own reward. Now in the overworld area, you control your character with the left stick. You can jump and later double jump and dash quickly in any direction. It's worth noting that this is most certainly a Metroidvania, with new areas unlocked when new abilities are gained, such as that of the wall running, and although initially it feels like you're following a predefined path, it soon opens up and allows you much more freedom in the direction you travel, with loosely veiled loading screens hidden behind slowly opening doors. As far as platforming goes in 3D then, there are always drawbacks, as it's difficult to judge the distances you have to jump, and there's no doubt about it, that issue still remains here, but I will say, control for the most part is very precise, with that dash move being an excellent example. Let's say the entire dash can be performed with a half-second pull of the right trigger. If you release at a quarter second, your character's going to stop instantly. You can move within the air when you're jumping. Control doesn't feel floaty, it's very tight indeed. When you latter gain the abilities to jump off of walls, do those double jumps, and even keep yourself afloat using a helicopter spin attack, some of those puzzle platforming segments get far easier. Dotted around the world are a number of voids that you can enter. I liked this split, and these are where the real hardcore platforming takes place, and they're even given a difficulty rating, which depressingly you'll find earlier on will be 1 or 2 stars despite your 50 attempts. But as you progress and you gain those new abilities, it becomes much easier. And within these stages, you'll have 30 different collectibles to find, as well as usually a hidden chest containing a very valuable item. And when you finish one, you're permanently granted a new health heart. One thing that many players may be slightly concerned about is the difficulty. And here, you'll be relieved to hear that there is the option to play the game on a slightly easier mode. But in all honesty, the combat side of things isn't that difficult at all. Enemies can be locked onto using the left trigger, allowing you to circle, strafe and dodge around in any direction. The attack patterns are generally quite simple, and it's easy enough to dodge in and out, do a few strikes, rinse and repeat. But you also unlock a shield early on, which if you time just before an enemy hits, will grant you a parry attack and you'll do much higher damage. But in all honesty, I felt like the combat perhaps wasn't difficult enough for the most part. This might please some people and you might think, yep, that's definitely for me then, but personally I would have liked perhaps a hard option to go above the normal. There are a number of different boss enemies to face. These have smart designs and you generally don't feel completely out of your depth even when you're facing them fresh, and you'll notice down in the corner of the screen you'll have a number of fire essence which essentially act as your Estus flasks and allow you to heal up. What pleases me the most with the game are the number of hidden things, little secret areas or tricky jumps that you think, can I make that? You'll go there and you'll discover an entirely new side quest or sweet new set of blades. There are different weapons to equip to your character and find, ones with poison, more damage, and it pleases me that the developer went to the effort of making them visually different on your character's back. Creating an interconnected Metroidvania is not an easy task, and I did manage to find a few little issues. For one, before I'd actually unlocked the skills that required me to reach some of the more advanced areas, I found little glitches glitches like balancing on the railings, jumping and dashing just at the right time, or jumping from ladders to areas that should have been inaccessible and then getting myself trapped and having to die to get back to the checkpoint. Don't get me wrong, there's a good chance that you'll never encounter these issues, but if you're one of those players that spends their whole time going off the beaten path and trying to find all the little secrets, there are a couple of game design moments that lack a touch of polish. One omission that you will notice though is the lack of a map. I thought for the first 6 or 7 hours that perhaps it was just me and I'd missed it, but the game has no mapping system whatsoever. Now, interestingly, unlike something like Hollow Knight, you're generally placed within the area you should be and given quite clear directions as to where to head next, but the map is about more than just direction. It gives the world a sense of scale and interconnectedness that, when you're without it, takes away some of the immersion, and no doubt there will be times when you just can't remember which direction you need to go next. It was an unusual choice to leave it out, and probably not the right one. Still, despite a few flaws, I do think Roby Studios have crafted a world that's fun to explore, but also one that not only has clever platforming design and some interesting characters to meet, it manages to have its own style. Small details, like when your character stands still and he starts doing press-ups or sits back on his backside and takes the world in, give it a sense of character. Those void challenges, some of which are brutally difficult, but by making them an optional distraction rather than completely compulsory, it means that challenge doesn't slip over into frustration. And then there are the emotes. There are a number of different emotes that you'll learn earlier on, scratching your head as to the purpose of them, but needless to say, there's a quirky and quite frankly charming treasure hunting mechanic tied to these. Aside from different weapons that you'll find in chests around the world, the most obviously borrowed idea are the spirits that you can equip to your character. These passive upgrades remain active as long as they're equipped, and grant you things like increased health or doubles the amount of ore you collect. Blue Fire isn't perfect, but I think it does enough. It sets out to achieve a 3-dimensional, tough as nails, platform Metroidvania with some reasonably slick combat, and I think it does it well. The world design is one of my favourite aspects, and there's enough challenge here for most players, albeit potentially not in the combat. I give gameplay 17 out of 20, and those controls, they score 17 out of 20 as well. Visually, Blue Fire on the Nintendo Switch has a perfectly fine art style with a simplistic 3D design and a reasonably low poly style. Unfortunately, when it comes to performance, having played the 60 frames per second version on the PC, the Nintendo Switch isn't quite there just yet. The frame rate seems to fluctuate a little, and it doesn't always maintain that 30 FPS target. But do check the top comment of this video, because when updates are released, I'll make sure I put the updated frame rate in there. It's more than playable, but it isn't perfect. Conversely, my favorite way of playing this game has been in handheld. While the small screen obviously makes everything look much crisper, it's just a game that suits that, and perhaps my terrible eyesight masks some of the framing issues when playing in handheld, but it became my go-to. Enemy designs I didn't think were that strong, and the same goes for their animations. Some areas of the world look fantastic, and I really did enjoy those void areas. I think it was a good choice to place these as isolated, separate environments. In the earlier part of the game, let's say the first 2 or 3 hours, I experienced a couple of crashes, but past that point and into the further stages, I haven't actually had one, so I'm not sure if this is an issue more to do with those first areas or if I was potentially unlucky, but it's worth you noting. Blue Fire has a beautiful soundtrack. And if you close your eyes, you really could be playing Hollow Knight, let's not beat around the bush. And while there's no voice acting, different characters that you meet have their own dialects. The orchestral highs and lows perfectly punctuate the experience and give the world a sense of otherness it otherwise wouldn't have without such an excellent choice of music. I give visuals and performance 14 out of 20, and that audio is fantastic. I give it 19 out of 20. Here in the UK, Blue Fire is currently available at a 10% discount, which takes it down to £16.19, and that goes on until the 17th of this month. And it also has a relatively small download size of 1.7 gigs, and depending on the type of player that you are, it's going to take you around about 15 hours if you look for quite a few of those side quests, with the potential to go up to 22 hours if you want to absolutely find everything. It's a world I've enjoyed exploring, and there are a couple of caveats caveats to the experience, such as no map, but for fans of the aforementioned series, I think you're going to have a really good time. I know I have. I do wish and feel like it would benefit from a physical copy, but it's a reasonably priced title that you're not going to regret picking up right now. I give value 17 out of 20. So there we have it. People very often complain about the number of 2D games and ask why developers don't spend more time working in 3D. And the answer is, it's much more difficult. It takes more time and there's the potential for more to go wrong. And with that in mind, in all honesty, I think the developer here have done an excellent job. And Blue Fire scores a SwitchUp score of 84%. Is this a game you're interested in? You can probably tell from my voice, I've really enjoyed it. I do love these style of games. It isn't perfect, but there's still a good time to be had. Let me know down in the comments, will you be picking this up? And a big thanks to our patrons who support us each and every month. For all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers guys, see ya!